So, A. Success, B. Money, C. Fame. These are all the things we want and we chase all through our lives to be happy. However, if you ever pause to reflect on where happiness comes from, you may be surprised to discover that the answer is D. None of the above. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's famous investigations of optimal experience have revealed that what makes an experience genuinely satisfying is a state of consciousness which is called flow. Okay, so hello everyone, my name is Dr. Amrik, and today we're going to talk about this groundbreaking classic by Csikszentmihalyi, Flow, the Psychology of Optimal Experience. So let's get started. Now, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the spelling is really bad, so if you want to pronounce it as Csikszentmihalyi. Alright. So Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi is a Hungarian American psychologist. He has dedicated his life to observing and studying the psychological concept of flow in his studies on happiness. Csikszentmihalyi states that happiness isn't fixed. It's more like a combination of a baseline level wherein our basic needs are met, plus there's a broader area which is controlled by an individual. Now, his studies and research show that once a person is earning a little beyond the average level, their material possessions don't affect anymore how happy they are. Okay, like to think that we would be happier if we just have a bigger house or maybe a better salary is stupidity. In most senses, personal happiness comes from within. The prefrontal cortex of our brain is the section where our worries, self-reflection and consciousness reside. When you achieve flow, you enter into a state in which the front of your brain experiences decreased activity, allowing the rest of your brain to function more, enabling new ideas to emerge, new breakthroughs to be made. This state is said to elevate your creative thinking as it is not inhibited by the conscious part of your brain anymore. Your neurons communicate faster, bouncing and generating ideas faster, unlocking more than they would be able to do otherwise. And this is when we are the most productive and the most happy. So, what is flow? Okay, the author describes it as a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else matters. The experience just in itself is so enjoyable that people will do it even at a great cost, just for the sheer sake of doing it. Now, Csikszentmihalyi's research also revealed some very interesting things about happiness. He found that many of the activities that people pursue in their leisure, like supposedly like watching television, were among the least enjoyable things. The most enjoyable moments were rather the ones which were full of challenge and maybe even pain. In a quote from the book, he says, "Contrary to what we usually believe, moments like these, like the best moments in our life, are not the passive, receptive and relaxing times. The best moments usually occur when a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something that is difficult but definitely worthwhile." So, to me, more than anything else, this book is an exploration of happiness. What makes us happy? How can we live a fulfilling life? The author Csikszentmihalyi makes a very compelling and clear argument so as to how happiness can be obtained, and in a way he gives very simple explanations for consciousness and maybe even the meaning of life. Csikszentmihalyi makes a very clear distinction between pleasure seeking and enjoyment, where pleasure is something that is externally focused and hence is a temporary fix, and happiness, true enjoyment, comes from within. It's internal and it is more sustainable. The author writes that the right kind of work provides us with ample amount of opportunities for thriving. In fact, working people achieve flow experiences of deep concentration, high and balanced challenges and skills, a sense of control while doing the work, and huge sense of satisfaction. They feel this sort of feelings about 4 times more often than someone who's just passively like watching television, for example. The author says that work can be a better experience when it's more like a game. Okay, in a quote from the book, he mentions that the more a job inherently resembles a game, for example, it has variety, appropriate and flexible challenges, clear goals, and definitely immediate feedback, the more enjoyable that job is. On the other hand, it depends on how we engage in our activity so that we can achieve flow. Okay, and this is like how we engage in our activity can, since there has been a lot of research on how to achieve flow, so like we can definitely engineer that procedure and hence enter flow. The research shows us that like it's the moments we are idle, we are surprisingly very less happy in those moments, whereas when we are engaged in work, when we are engaged in creating something, when we are in the pursuit of some kind of goal, which like stretches our abilities to its limit, these are the moments when we experience true happiness, and these are the moments when we are in a state of flow. So paradoxically, it means that we often feel happier when working, okay, rather than something that like other people consider leisure activity, like binging on Netflix, endlessly scrolling on Instagram or Facebook, getting drunk, etc. Hence, like flow provides us with a solution. See, by understanding this repeatedly stated principles, any activity can be turned into a rewarding experience, and it can actually contribute to your happiness. And ask yourself, like, why would you ever say no to that, right? So how do we find our flow? Okay, we are in a state of flow when we are making great progress. It takes discipline, but definitely you can apply the science to reach a state of flow. Okay, we have to basically find a task that is challenging, but according to us has to be possible, and then focus on that task completely immerse in that task for a definitive small time period, say 20 minutes or more. Okay, we can even set a timer for 30 minutes and all. And most importantly, we have to get feedback on like how we are doing. Okay, if you follow these processes, like this steps line by line, we can definitely achieve flow. Okay, so research on progress led by Harvard researcher Teresa Amabile illustrates the power of progress towards a clear and meaningful goal. Okay, her team analyzed over like 10,000 daily entries in the work journal, and they asked the participants to describe definitely what was going on in their head and how they felt. Okay, so Amabile and her team found that several factors brought happiness and engagement at work, definitely, but the most important by far was definitely progress. And it was not just any progress that fueled engagement and happiness at work. The progress had to be toward a very clearly defined and very meaningful goal. So okay, how next up, like how can we create such goals? So such goals have to be SMART. Now, SMART in a way is an acronym which stands for S for specific, wherein we describe exactly what we want to achieve. M stands for measurable, wherein we can measure our progress in the path of achieving that goal. A is for attainable. The goal must be visualized as plausible and attainable by our subconscious. And R stands for relevant. The goal, whatever it is, it should be aligned with our mission in life and larger goals. And time bound. You have to specify the exact amount of time in which you want to get the work done. As we were discussing in the previous Elon Musk wala podcast, like about the Parkinson's law, right? So if you allot a definitive time period to work, like work expands according to the time period which is allotted to it. So if you are allowing a definitive short time period in which you have to get that work done, you're generally most likely to get excessive amount of work done in that small time period. And thirdly, we have to minimize multitasking. In today's world, there's this myth of multitasking, like many people reward and even celebrate multitasking, right? But the research suggests that those people are like making mistake. Also, by multitasking, I have to clarify that I mean switching your attention every few minutes or maybe even faster, not like switching your projects every few hours or days. Okay, so the research is clear on this, that with a very few exceptions, which is like barely like 3% of the population, we simply cannot pay attention to 2 or 3 things at the same time. All we can do is like rapidly switch attention from one thing to the other, and when we switch attention, we pay a very heavy cognitive price. Okay, studies show that multitasking can slow us down. It can definitely make us more error prone. It exhausts our prefrontal cortex just because it's just such a cognitive load, and it definitely gets us very easily distracted to something else. So you can basically give yourself a better chance of getting into flow by doing any help do all of the following steps. All right, first of all, turn off all the notifications for email, social media and more, because these notifications are designed to be compelling. All right, like even if you don't respond to them, they're likely to increase the work on your brain, and notifications like increase the cognitive load in a very unhelpful way. They don't do anything. Also, when your phone rings, like just notice who's calling. Okay, pause and think, like, is this call right now worth taking? Is it more important than the work you're doing or the flow state that you have achieved? If you are in a flow and you're getting work done, you're making significant progress, definitely that call can wait. Okay, so let it wait. Also, try to keep the interruptions under 2 minutes. Research suggests that we have a better chance of getting back into flow quickly if the interruptions are less than 120 seconds. And always set a timer. So to summarize, the essential steps in the process are: firstly, we have to set an overall goal and divide it into as many as sub goals as realistically feasible. Secondly, to find ways of measuring progress in terms of the goal chosen. Okay, and this is very important. Thirdly, we have to keep on concentrating on that one sub goal that we are doing, and we have to keep on making finer and finer distinctions in the challenges that are involved in the activity. And lastly, we have to take time to develop the skills which are necessary to fully utilize that opportunity. Okay, so among the 4 which I just mentioned, one which is very often overlooked but it is insanely important is the second one. That is, we have to always find a way of measuring the progress we are making. Okay, because since just setting goals and working at them isn't necessarily enough to unlock that flow state, you also have to know like how you are doing. Okay, so in this way you can discover like what works and what doesn't, and you can like adjust your ideas and actions accordingly. You can refine your thinking and behavior further and further over time, which is required to like optimize your performance in the long run. And like this point applies to any activity that you wish to elevate and derive maximum enjoyment from, like any activity. So if you are going to set a goal, make sure that you know how to measure your progress towards it. It might seem a lot of work like at first, but right, after a few like days or 21 days, to be very definite, it would be a habit. And trust me, it doesn't take long to see it start paying its dividend. So most important of all, from the entire talk, if you want to remember something, remember this thing. Okay, that contrary to what we usually believe, the best moments of our life are not passive or relaxing times. Okay, although such experiences can also be enjoyable, like if we have worked very hard to attain them, but the best moments of our life always occur when a person's body and mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something, to achieve a big goal. And thus happiness is something that you can create for yourself. Always remember this: happiness is always a self-generated emotion. So that's it, guys, for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed today's podcast. And also thank you for the positive feedback on the previous episodes. Trust me, it means a lot. If you are listening to this on Spotify or YouTube, please do follow or subscribe, so that the algorithm gets to know that and sends you to similar content instead of mindless entertainment. Okay, this is me, Amrik, signing off. I sincerely hope that you have a really productive day. Thank you.